All right, guys, welcome back to the Hammer and Chisel Performance Podcast. I'm your host, John Heck. Okay, so we're going to take things over to the bodybuilding side of things right now. The guest I have on, really excited to have him. He was a highly competitive bodybuilder himself. He's a highly regarded coach in the industry. I am now a proud supporter of his supplement company, Troponin Supplements. And this guy was a huge mentor to me in terms of shaping a lot of my diet and nutrition philosophies. I credit him for literally helping shape my body to what it is now, and then kind of helping cultivate just driving my passion for physique enhancement, the bodybuilding side of things. So anyway, Justin Harris, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. And I just say this is the first, since you've gone full time with coaching and stuff, I think this is the first thing we've done together. So that's awesome. I'm glad you're killing it. I think that's great. I hope, it sounds like it was the right move for you, but I love seeing guys take the risk, take the step, follow their passion and have it pay off. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm loving life right now. It's awesome. Just getting to be my own boss, call my own shots, just be in control. I'm a lot busier than I anticipated, but in a good way. I mean, no one knows that better than you. I'm sure your life is crazy busy, right?
Yeah, I always say that. I heard someone say it once, but yeah, own your own business so you can work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is it you've been building a company from the ground up. I imagine you're still working with coaching clients. You've got a few big time clients that we'll talk about here in a second. But I mean, is this a fun challenge, just the grind right now, or is it like Jesus, you're just drained at this point?
Well, both. Well, I love that. I mean, like you grow up playing sports and competitions, and like there's always like this very difficult, hard thing that you're working really hard for and trying to accomplish. And then of course, like if you win or winning championship, I mean, anyone who's played sports knows there's no better immediate massive dopamine burst than like working hard and then it pays off. And so like in that aspect, that whole like delayed gratification, work really hard, achieve like that. I'm getting that in spades. I mean, but it's like you said, it's just so much work. I, I have a family, 4 kids, a wife. And so it's hard with that. Cause my approach to things would be like, like bet it all on red. I'll go all in on everything, and I'll be like, yeah, mortgage the house. Let's go. But it's hard when you got 2 kids in college, and where the industry has been incredible to me, like financially with coaching and stuff. So we're able to put like, I don't even like put the kids through school, pay for their college, which my wife and I didn't have. We're actually still paying her student loans for medical school,
I know that life.
and I think all the time, I mean, like we could have, I mean, like the housing price has gone up now, but for a long, we could have like two extra vacation homes just for what we've paid every month in student loans. I mean, it's outrageous. With medical school, like her minimum, I don't even want to say what her minimum payment has always been more than our mortgage.
But yeah, my wife and I were going through the same thing. She went through nursing school at a private school. I mean, we're still under 6 figures of and that. So it's like every dollar we make, it's like, oh,
And then if you look at it, and they'll try to set you up with a payment program, and you look at it, it's like, wait a minute, I paid $3,000 and only 600 went to the principal. It's like, how is this?
Seriously.
This is insane. Yeah,
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, people, like the student loan thing, I can see both sides because I'm not a big fan of government assistance, and I think like, you take loans out, you deal with it, and I believe that, but I also believe that, like college education has gone up like 16,000% in price that during over where wages have gone up like 40% or something absurd, so it's a little ridiculous now. Like I got humble brag, or not even humble, I guess, but I just got inducted to the Athletic Hall of Fame at my college. And when we went to the like whole athletic center area, I didn't know my way around. I mean, it's been a while since I was there, but I went to a college, like with a crappy weight room. We had a basketball court, like you go in now and it's like what going to U of M, like University of Michigan used to be like when I was, it's this small little private school, and the athletic facilities are insane, like unbelievable. And, you go in the locker room and everyone's got their own, we had just metal lockers. Everyone's got their own open wooden locker with their name and like, just, like, which is awesome. And as a kid, that's like, that stuff like that seems so cool, but that costs money. It's not free, and they're paying for it, and they're paying a lot for it. I mean, it's like colleges out. I mean, even at Michigan State, which is just a state school, and we're in state. What is it, like 25,000 for my daughter to go there a year? I mean,
Yeah, the cost of education and then the money that they're putting into the athletic facilities and all that, it's insane. And to the audience who thought you're coming for bodybuilding, you're actually coming to an economics podcast. So, no, but I mean, Justin, you got a lot of different talents. I mean, I think something I respect about you as a coach is that you're a legitimately intelligent individual. I mean, you've got correct me if I'm wrong, a degree in physics. You're very well versed in economics and investing, obviously in business now. You even play the guitar. So, I mean, you've got a lot of talents, and that speaks to your intelligence, which I think has made you a very good coach. And I think kind of touching on the grind, the work, the dopamine rush, just as someone like us who come from competitive backgrounds, I'll have people talk to me and they'll say, oh man, I just want to be able to retire by 50 and just golf. And I'm like, I can't relate to that. If I need something to chase.
Yeah, retirement's awesome. But for me, retirement means then I can do the thing I want, yeah, it just, that always blows my mind. Cause everyone knows, like, grandparents or great grandparents or whatever, what happens when you retire? You get old and die. And it happens. It's like, it's crazy how you have like a 68-year-old man who's worked a few years past retirement, and he's up every day working, and he seems like an adult man. He retires, and if you've ever seen this, when I was at Eaton, I was an engineer for a while. Some of the guys would leave. They'd be, 65, 68. Some of them stay a little later because they, don't know what to really do. They don't really need to work, but I've done this my whole life. And then they leave, and then they come back, or you have some, like, another personal retirement, their retirement party, those people come back, and it's 2 or 3 years later, and you'd think they're living the easy life. They're going to look amazing. No, they look like they age 15 years every time. It's wild.
No doubt. I think people need challenge in their life.
For
like
sure.
Doing hard things, chasing after a goal, it's good for you. It keeps you young, keeps you in the game. And then when you lose that, it's like you lose your purpose, right?
Well, in all reality, like, pleasure, I mean, there's pleasure, like, dopamine, you do a drug and you feel high, euphoria, things like that. But as far as like the pleasure you get from things being good, having, a happy life, successful life, a good fit, like, all the things like that are really relative. You don't know what good is unless you don't know what easy is unless you've had hard,
Yeah.
you don't. And so I think there's a lot to be said for that. Like, like retiring on the beach, going on vacation on the beach is amazing. Why? Because it's in comparison to getting up at 5 a.m. to go to work. I think it very quickly, like when you do nothing and that becomes your new baseline. I think it's why, and I don't sympathize with it that much, because I'm assuming it's not like I'm doing this, but you see, like, a, wealthy celebrity in a $20 million home, and they're dealing with depression, and people are always like, oh, what an idiot, what an asshole, give me $20 million. I wanted to be depressed. But then I think, like, like, a lot of them aren't married. They don't have kids, and so you wake up every morning in a massive $20 million home, and it's amazing, but no one's there. You just wake up, no one knows you woke up, no one to talk to. And unless you actively go out and do something, you don't interact with other people. So, like, unless you go out and go shopping or go have friends, or basically do what you're doing partly with work, going and being around people, I can see, like, it seems silly that you're sitting there, like, laying in bags of money and depressed, but what, like, you're just alone in a big house. I think about that, quite a bit. I think, yeah, like, good is only good if there's bad. If there's no bad, then good is just normal. There's great, which would be maybe better than good, but then that great is no longer great. Great is good in comparison to whatever your bottom is.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, like, when I was working in football, it's the grind, we're working so many hours, and we finally get that day off and it feels so good. But then on the rare chance we get like a full week-long vacation, by day 5, I'm like, Jesus, this is just boring. Like,
Yeah, the days start flying by. That's like, we well, we can't really do vacations now with with the companies. It's a little too hectic, but we traditionally take in more frequent, shorter vacations. So we find you do like a 3 day, or 4 day, 3 night vacation, and like you're excited for every day, and you still want to stay, but it's time to go home, and like you're like, oh, that was awesome. You do like a
Yeah.
10 day vacation, and they're still great, but like days like 5 through 10 fly by. You're like,
Yeah.
wait, we only have 2 more days. What have we done the last 4 days? It's like, it's wild how it works. But so we like to do more frequent, like, really long, like a Monday through, or a Friday through Monday type deal, like a 4 day vacation, a 4 day weekend type vacation. And you can do you can go to Mexico, you can go, other than like Europe or like really long flights, you can do quite a bit of traveling. And then, you're pressed for time a little bit. And so you make each day important. I just really realized that we did a thing where we were going to Bucharest, Mexico over Christmas. We did it like 3 or 4 years in a row with my wife's family. And the first year was probably the best vacation I ever had, most enjoyable. And the second year wasn't, I mean, it was still a great vacation, but it was like a 10-day one. And it was weird how like we got, I felt like I got as much out of it as the 4 day one the year before, because day 5, 6, 7, and 8, we just woke up, you putzed around. Before you knew it, it's 1 p.m. Everyone's like, oh, we got to get lunch. You get lunch, you go to the beach, and then you go to bed. Now, repeating that, it sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But it just started, you stop appreciating it as much.
Yeah, 100%. Well, speaking of, cheap pleasure, I'm going to throw a quick nicotine pouch in before we get into this bodybuilding talk. Are you a nicotine guy?
Where am I? Yeah, I'm using Monzo now.
Or are you just using ATP? Use code HECK at checkout.
Oh, I'm hacked. I got no, but I did get I got these. I really like the flavor of these ons. But they're tiny little packets.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like putting a little fat lipper in. I dipped in football and stuff, and I never did after, but I kind of miss, I like Zins. Zins are really hard to find. I bought some online. Have you ever got fake Zin?
No, I didn't know that counterfeit Cindy's.
Me neither, but everyone's always sold out. So I use these also. I got a bunch. Alps, I just tried. I think Tucker Carlson likes those. They're all right. I'm a, some guys are like, I want to live forever, or lifestyle hacking or biohacking. I'm a productivity hacker. So anything that increases focus, or so before, like something like this, I'll always put in a pouch in or something. But anyways, these Zins came, and I opened the first one, and it was like really strong mint. I got cool mint, real strong mint flavor. I was like, I wonder if this is mislabeled. What's that? Cool Frost, because there's like a little menthol to it. I put this fucker in, and it starts burning, and I'm like, this is strong. And then I'm like, something's not right. Maybe if I move it to the other side of my mouth. Within 2 minutes, my mouth hurt so bad I couldn't breathe cold air in for like 2 hours after. I don't know if they just put pure methanol or menthol. I'm sorry, pure menthol into it with maybe a little bit of it. This stuff, I almost want to keep them just to bring out at parties to see who can the longest. I bet in 30 minutes, this thing would have just ate right through my lips.
Jesus, now you've got me all nervous here when I'm going to be buying Zins, now that I know that all the situations
right. So then I looked online. I'm like, is this even something that's faked? You're used to that in our world, like,
essay. It was like, Jesus, real Zins, it's harder to find than real Primable and out there.
And so I'm like Googling, and I'm like, yeah, there is a whole counterfeit market, but they're like telling you all these things that way to spot it. And I'm like, mine has none of those. I have the only reason I haven't thrown away is because I mixed them with my other ones that are legit, and I don't want to throw them wrong, because you can't tell until you put one in your mouth, and then it's like putting like lava, but cold lava.
All right, well, I'll be on the lookout for that. But okay, getting into some of the bodybuilding talk. Obviously, we have the Arnold approaching. We're what, a month out exactly from the Arnold. You've got a couple big clients in the Arnold. You've got a big time pro, and then a big time amateur gunning for a pro card. Who are you working with?
So, well, just to say, the Arnold this is what I was saying before, like, bet it all on red. The Arnold is, my wife, I think, is getting super stressed out. It's a huge weekend for us. We have a 10 by 30 booth. I don't know if anyone's bought booth space at the Arnold, but this is by far our biggest financial risk with the company. And it's really tough because there's no immediate evidence of return. You're going to have to track stuff for months afterwards. We're doing a fully custom booth. Just got the proofs back from all the graphic designs. I do all our graphic design stuff, and I learned the difference between me and a real graphic designer when I sent all the proofs in, and they're like talking about all these terms that I had no idea. So they ended up helping me with that. But yeah, we have that. And then, so Brandon Curry doing the open, which I need to be better about promoting. It's never been my style. Work with guys and hope he'll do well, but he's been a great client. I mean, like, it's always the same. It's always the same. Like, you'll get pros who, and I don't want to bash anyone who's an IFBB pro, because even people do this a lot, but even the worst pro card is still a good bodybuilder. People like to pretend otherwise, but if it wasn't the case, then we would all be walking around with one. But you get like lower level pros, and they'll always want free coaching and free this. And in my experience, like Brandon's not like that. He's like, no, you provide a service. That's I'll pay for the service. And there is something to that, because you'll find as a coach real quickly that, and it might work for other people, but for me, it never works. Discounts or freebies never work. One, the client doesn't appreciate it at all, in the fact that they might appreciate it financially, but they don't respect the information as much when they're not paying for it. No matter, it's a weird psychological thing that you almost can't avoid. And then two, the ones that ask for that always end up being the worst clients on top of it. They don't listen, and they kind of, but Brandon's been a great, like, easiest client. Yeah, I mean, if working with, it would be a fun career if you got to just work with pros that were like that. It doesn't complain, does it? I think he's kind of had a reputation at various points for maybe not working hard, but I haven't experienced it at all, because I am torturing him right now, and he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't say it's easy. He says it's hard, and it's harder than he's used to doing, but he doesn't complain, gets it done. So
How old is Brandon now? I mean, he's getting up there.
39 or 40, I think, because I believe when he turned pro in 2009, because we crossed paths on the competitive circuit, like on the amateurs. I was, right as I was kind of leaving the sport, he was skyrocketing up. And so I think that's how he knew me, because he when we first talked, he said he'd wanted to hire me a couple of times, but he's getting a lot of pressure to go over to Oxygen Gym to train over there. But he really wanted to stay in the U.S. because his son's in high school now. His son's a great football player. He's already got 2 offers as a freshman. Yeah. And he wants to be with his family. And so he almost worked with me last year, but finally reached out this year. So I hope it pays off for him. It'll be great for me if it does also, but he's a good guy. And I hope, because you can feel from his perspective, because if he doesn't do good, what does everyone say? Oh, you should have went overseas. It's like, it's there's, and I know what those guys do. There's no magic. There's no mysteries. There's no magic in the world. It's just how it is. Hard work is what always wins. And the real benefit to going over there, I think, is that there's no option to not be on point. Your meals are made for you. You're driven to the gym. The weights are put on the bar, the workout, like, you become a robot, which is, and this is a sport where robots do really well. Ronnie Coleman was kind of like the epitome of a robot. And so I think that's the real benefit. It's not like they don't have any special drugs, or they don't do anything special. It's because there just isn't, like, there's no mysteries. There's research data on every compound there is. Everyone knows, like, it's not 1992 where you're trusting a Weeder magazine to lie to you, like, everything's online. So there's no magic. I think over there, you're not allowed the option of being off point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, just having your meals prepared for you, just, having everything kind of just prepped for you, coming from like the NFL side of strength and conditioning, man, like, we take care of those athletes so much. Now, they might not have any special advantage in terms of cutting edge training or nutrition or anything, but just the level of care that they receive just takes a lot of stress, a lot of additional work.
And I think that, now that I'm thinking about that, really should be discussed more, because everyone gets on these podcasts or gets on the internet and they ask about, like, the special things, these secret things that people are doing. And it's The reality of the world is that hard work always pays off. Now, hard work doesn't guarantee success because there's other factors, but those other factors are really more out of your control. Genetic gifts, where you were born, financial situation. But in whatever you're doing, anything, whether you're trying to get better at work, trying to get better at school, trying to get better at play, at a sport, whatever you're doing, if you work harder, you're going to do better. It doesn't mean that someone's going to work not hard and beat you, because they might have other gifts elsewhere. But it's like, it's a no-brainer for me. Like, you don't like where things are. If you work harder, they'll improve. They might not get great for you, but that's really all you can control is your effort. And that's the big thing, like with the NFL. And that's a huge thing. Like we say, like, it's the little things, but that's a huge thing. Not having to worry about it, having your meals ready for you, the workout, not having to think about the workout, having other people to push you through the workout, people putting the weights on for it, like, so you're offloading all the, all the minor, annoying, difficult little things. And that ends up being a big thing.
Yeah, it does. Cause I mean, like when I'm dieting down, like the most taxing part is preparing 6 meals and packaging it, weighing it out. Then I got to put in coolers and take it to work. And then there's the time management. Like the thing that would be the risk for kind of burning me out would be just all the tedious prep that goes into it, not the hunger, not the pushing through the discomfort of training or any of that, just all the tedious preparation you have to do day after day. So
I get bad with that, where I almost start like glorifying or fantasize. Like, you start like having these weird, like, you don't dream about doing drugs or getting drunk. You dream like, man, I'm not going to take my pills this morning. You're like, I don't care. Because just like, like, I don't, or screw it, I'm having a protein drink. I'm not cooking chicken. I don't give a shit anymore. It's like, yeah, you're just like, you just get so, it's almost like a reward. Like, you're all excited. Like, oh, I'm not, I'm ordering a protein smoothie from Grubhub. This is,
yeah, I mean, like little things like on my high carb day where there's a meal where like I don't have to measure the food, just that little tiny inconvenience taken off the plate of having to let the scale and measure every little component. Like,
or how like this, my high day macros work out where if I do like I like cinnamon checks or honey nut checks, or like checks, which is like a corn cereal, not super high sugar, but combining that with Fairlife milk and maybe a little higher amount of protein, because but that's right around my ratio of protein to carbs. And it's like, I don't have to cook. I don't have to weigh, I just got to pour in a cup and measure. This is I can't sleep the night before. I'm like, oh, I'm going to have cereal for breakfast and it's going to have macros.
yeah, it's the little things when it comes to going to that robot mode of bodybuilding. But going back to Brandon Curry, let me ask you this. So working with a guy who's very advanced in his career now, and he's older, pushing 40 years old. Now, I think you've told me your opinion was the kind of peak age for a bodybuilder was kind of 36, the late 30s. And, you look at powerlifting and strongman, there are lifters who have very much excelled in their 40s. Stan Efferding in powerlifting, Mark Felix in strongman, that kind of old man muscle. I think there's something to that. Is it harder working with a guy at that age, or is he kind of still in his prime?
Still his prime. I think it's easier because I think if you really think about it, if you step back and think like, okay, it's not the age that makes us worse at sports. It's what happens with the age, right? And what happens, like injuries and things which you can't really do much about, but it's really like the hormones, you lose insulin sensitivity, your testosterone levels decrease, well, we kind of bypass that circuit, So what other age related decrease in performances happens, and in some sports, like the fact that your skin kind of thins out with age could possibly be a detriment, more prone to injury, more prone to cuts or whatever. But in bodybuilding, it's the opposite. Thinner skin improves your look, so you're kind of, and then what's the other thing is in this sport, building muscle takes a long time. And because I've even kind of joked, like every time I post a video, if you'll get one comment where someone will like kind of like make fun of you or how stupid it is that you're that age and you still have muscles, And I always say it is kind of weird because you start working out, like if you went up to the sports world, it's a little different because you train for sports originally. But like most people start out because in high school, having big muscles gives you like respect, you know, like no one's a millionaire in high school. No one's got money. So like, how do you stand out? You can be smart, you can be good at sports, you can have muscle. And so it's like a, you know, it's like a, you know, it's a badge of honor when you're young, but that kind of drifts away as you get older. And, but the problem is it takes so long to build the muscle that by the time you have it, you're kind of out of the age, you know, like being jacked at 18 is awesome. Everyone think all your friends will think it's cool. You know, all the girls are like, oh, he's got so many muscles, but no one's jacked at 18. It just, you know, it takes 10 years. And then by the time you're 28, you got a wife and kids. And it's like, I still love this, but society doesn't kind of, so I don't even really know where I'm going with that. But I guess kind of it's just that this sport, there's almost continual progression. It slows down over time, but the longer you can make that, the more progress you're going to make. The things fighting against you hormonally, we kind of bypass. And so you get a much later peak than in other sports, almost like a decade later, if not more. But really for bodybuilding, it's really like 36 to 42, maybe 36 to 44 even. But yeah, you kind of cycles around that 40. You know, Ronnie was there at that age. Sean Roden, Phil Heath was a little younger, but you know, it's like a lot of guys really kind of Kai Green, you know, like that's where you've had enough time to build the muscle, enough preps under your belt where you really kind of know how your body works. Your skin starts thinning. And so eventually age catches up no matter what, because we replace some of the hormones, but there's more than just like 2 or 3 hormones in the body that deal, you know, so eventually things catch up to you. But yeah, so I think he has I don't think age will not be a factor for him.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. So a guy like Brandon Curry approaches you, you know, where do you start? Like, is it kind of, hey, what have you been doing up to this point? Let's kind of build a diet based on that. Or are you just like, where do you start with such an advanced pro like him in terms of his initial plan?
So this is where I think working with a good coach matters. And there's a lot of coaches now. And I always think, I remember specifically, I don't remember what it was, but I remember one time years ago, at least 15 years ago, when podcasts were brand new, they were only audio. I was doing one and I said something about a process in the body. And as soon as I said it, I realized I don't know that that's true. I just heard someone else say it, you know?
Yeah.
And it really like, I think I like had a terrible rest of the podcast because I couldn't get that thought. I wanted to go get off and go like look it up. And I realized like, I don't know how many things there are like that, but I don't ever want to say something just because I heard someone else say it. If I hear someone else say it and I think it's interesting or valuable, the internet is right there. I'm going to go look it up, find out, you know, especially if it's a process about the body, you know, like this organ does this. Well, you can look that up, you know, at least as far as we know currently. And a lot of coaches out there currently, that's what they do. They don't know what they're doing, really. They know they've heard other people say these things and they have this collection of ideas and thoughts, and you should learn from other people, but they have this collection of things or thoughts that are kind of not fully interconnected and integrated that they just spit out because someone else said it, you know? And so you're not working with them, you're working with the internet at this point. For me, everything I do is my own, partly because I started this 25 years ago where there weren't online coaches. And so there just wasn't the information. No one, and then I, you know, so I have no idea how other coaches do check-ins. I have no idea how other coaches write their diet plans. I have no idea. And so, but from that, and from 25 years of doing that, there is almost nothing that's a mystery anymore. I understand the human body. My undergraduate degree is in kinesiology. I worked in cardiology. I've spent 25 years doing this. There's nothing that you're going to do that I haven't seen. And there's no major physiological processes in the body that I don't have a pretty decent grasp on. And so I just I just write the diet, you know, and it turns out most things are pretty close, you know, like I write it because this is my thing. But if you compare it to what he's done in the past, they are all pretty close, you know, because that's one of the big kind of secrets in the room, I guess, is that they're just like with PEDs, there's not that many different things you can do. You know, you got protein, carbs, and fat, and you're bound by this boundary condition of we burn this many calories. If we want to lose fat, we have to eat less than that. If we want to gain body weight, hopefully muscle mass, then we have to eat more than that. You can gain muscle mass without doing that, but it gets a little more tricky. But that's really the long and short of it. So his metabolism is the same whether he works with me or works for someone else. So I'm not working with, we're all working with we have the same system of energy, basically. And we're going to supply 3 different macronutrients within that boundary condition. That's really it. It seems way more complicated than it is, but that's all we're doing. And then even more than that, protein is not going to vary that much. It's not like someone's going to give them 200 grams of protein a meal and I'm going to give them 20. I might be a lower protein guy, but I'm still giving them at least 50 grams a meal. And a high protein guy is probably not giving them more than 75 a meal. So all protein is almost out of the equation because it only varies a tiny little bit. So all we're doing is we're adjusting carbs and fats. And then it's who knows how those processes, how those nutrients work in the body better than other people. And that's where a good coach comes in, because if a coach that understands that will know how to make adjustments and why he's making those adjustments. Someone who doesn't understand those things is going to say, someone else told me about these adjustments. I'm going to make them and hope they work for you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you boil it down, nutrition, it's so simple. And, with my time in football where we're applying nutrition to athletes, or we're applying nutrition to people who are not chasing extreme body compositions, I tell them, I'm like, look, I'm not going to tell you anything cutting edge in terms of the X's and O's in nutrition. At this point, my role is more of like a psychologist. I've just got to get you to adhere to the plan. There's nothing special about telling you to eat lean meat and rice and complex carbs. And, we kind of just track your maintenance intake and add or subtract 500 calories. Like that is basic 101 stuff. It's getting you to actually stay on the diet. That's the hard part.
Yep.
But when you're working with a bodybuilder, things get a little more complicated because now you're chasing an extreme body composition. You're having to diet someone down to extreme low levels of body fat while simultaneously retaining all their muscle tissue. Then they've got to get them on stage and they've got to be full, they've got to be dry. So it does obviously get more complex.
Not even worse, all the tools that they have for tracking progress lie, basically, like the scale, even the mirror, because the process, to look big, round, full, and dry on stage, you don't get that unless you spend a good chunk of time flat, depleted, and soft in prep, and which is very counterintuitive, because if you want to look good on stage, you almost have to look bad in prep. If you look good in prep, you're going to look bad on stage. And really quickly, like to kind of to show that is, if like say a guy was going to compete, like someone Brandon might compete at like 250 pounds. We'll say he decides, the judges says he needs to be bigger, so he wants to be 255. So he diets the whole prep with that in mind, and so, but previously he'd get to like 256, 257, and he'd be close to in shape, but then he'd dry out for the show and be 250. Well, now he's thinking like, I got to be at least 260 going into peak week, so he'd go, at least. And so he goes in and he's like, it's like, 262 or whatever. And then he realized, oh shit, yeah, I'm 262, but I'm not in shape. I'm not dry enough. So what does he do? He over dehydrates and pushes all the peak week stuff, dries out too much. He's not able to be full. What ends up, he's on stage, kind of soft, got that glossy look that guys get when they're too dehydrated, too depleted, and not full. The skin's not pulled tight. The skin's really smooth because there's no blood in the microvasculature. And even worse, he ends up on stage because he over diuresed at like 250 again. So it's the same weight and a worse look because he tried to be bigger in prep. If you take the opposite approach and it's like, I don't care what the judges say, I'm just coming in shredded. I don't care if I die, just starve me to nothing. And he goes into peak week at 245 now rather than in 260, and it's like, oh shit, I usually go into peak week at 255 and I'm on stage at 250. Now I'm only 245. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. But then you start peaking and you realize, oh crap, I am shredded. I didn't even realize how shredded I was because I was so flat. I looked soft. I got some carbs in me and my skin's getting pulled thin. And it's like, wow, I look insane. Let's keep eating. Let's keep eating. Everything's working. And you end up, now I'm 255 on stage. I gained weight in the peak, filled back out, and I'm leaner, drier, and harder. And I did gain those 5 pounds, but I spent all of prep 10 pounds smaller.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that makes total sense. And I'm sure that's such a mind fuck for these guys. And then I'm sure it's then, add stress on you because you've got to talk it through with that guy, get them on board. And then they're having other people in their life telling them, no, you got to be doing this.
Exactly. Yeah. You look like shit. And what are people going to tell you? You look like shit. They don't know
Well,
why you look like it.
yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So you're dealing with a big time client on a big time stage. When you get into those final weeks, how do you make the call? Okay, you're ready. And is it hard to make that call? Because now his career's on the line, your name is on the line. Is it hard to make that call and say, we're ready?
It's not, it's hard to complete the call because like you've seen enough preps, when someone's ready. The problem is people don't, the person never does. The guys almost always think they're wrong. Either they think they're more in shape than they are. And why? Have you ever noticed this? You look in the mirror in the gym and you're like, man, I look insane. Let me take a picture of that. You take a picture and it doesn't look anything like it. Well, why? Because you're like, maybe you're training arms. You're looking in the mirror, and even though you're looking at your whole body, it's a big, like our eyes kind of have to fixate on one thing. And so you're looking in the mirror at your delt and bicep tie-in and how pumped your veins are. And like, oh, it's awesome. When you take a picture, the pictures of your whole body, and so like so same thing when you're in shape, guys will be like, let's start sitting down under good lighting. The flexor quads will be like, look at all that feathering. And, and it's like, well, the truth is on stage, you're only as lean as your fattest body part. But mentally, our brains, especially as we get close to shape, want to look at the parts that are in shape, and that's what so guys either, it's kind of one or the other opposite extreme. Either they never think they're lean enough and they ruin prep by just being so focused on being lean, because when you get really lean and you get flat, you start looking softer, And so if you don't understand that, you'll start panicking that you're looking softer, diet harder, and you are getting leaner, but you'll look even softer and softer. And guys are they just like keep pushing that way, or they do the opposite. Because if you're pretty lean and you're really full and you have a high day and get really full, you look rock hard and you look grainy, and guys will start thinking like, I'm in shape, let's eat more. And so it's the hard thing of getting them to like buy in and also say like, because how do you, it's kind of hard to, like you said, a psychologist, these guys, like it's tough. You're working hard. It's hard to hear that you look like shit from someone, especially when it's their job to make you not look like shit. So it can be hard to be like, no, yeah, your quads are good, dude, but your ass is still saggy. Like you can't say it that way. You got to word it like, no, we're almost there. If we can let's just get the glutes a little bit tighter. But the hard part is not knowing when they're ready. It's convincing them that they are really.
Yeah, I'm sure. And, we were talking off air a little bit. I think that people aren't necessarily aware that you've worked with quite a number of big name pros. I mean, just you've stayed a little bit more under the radar compared to some of these, quote unquote, big name, flashy pro coaches.
Well, I tend to work with them when they're amateurs. I learned early on that people who don't pay don't listen. And so even when I know that it could boost my coaching career, I won't work with, if you want to work with me, you'll be a paying customer like everyone else. I provide a service. You wouldn't ask Apple for free stuff, even though they're the best. You paid for Apple because they're the best. And so what typically happens is I work with them through the amateur ranks, we turn pro, and then another coach will be like, hey, I'll pay you to come work with me, And a lot of coaches have tried to build a business that way, and to some extent, it works for some if you do it correctly.
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking with a high-level sports performance coach in the private sector recently, and these NFL guys, like when they're training with private guys in the off season, they're not doing it for free. The guy I was talking to charges $5,000 a day, for some of the pro guys he's working with. And a point he made to me was interesting, which is maybe the training I'm giving you isn't different than the training I'm giving to a lesser athlete, but I am assuming a larger amount of risk because you're a big name guy. My name is now attached to you. If you go out and get hurt, that smears my name. So I am assuming this bigger kind of risk, this bigger eyes are on me now. So that kind of validates charging a higher price, which I imagine for a bodybuilding coach, hey, you've got a big name client. It's not just his name on the line now. It's also your name on the line because everyone knows.
Like you took out like a Mr. Like imagine Ronnie Coleman worked with Chad Nichols you know, and pick a year he didn't look good. Like what he did bad at, like the 2001 Olympia. Imagine he switched coaches for the 2001 Olympia and looked exactly the same as he did while working with Chad. That coach is going to be like, you know, or the internet at large is going to be like, what did this guy do to Ronnie? You know, and that guy's coaching career is over. It's, you know,
Yeah. So for that reason, when it comes to working with pros, in some ways, I'm sure they're easier to work with because they're the genetically gifted ones. They're the high responders to drugs. Like they look great already. Is it harder or easier working with these guys? Because on the other end, like we just said, there's that pressure, and then they've had so many other influences, ideas, so many other people in their ear. They bigger egos. Is it easier or harder working with these top guys?
it can go either way. I would say very often it's easier, but sometimes it's harder. It like sometimes I feel like, especially when they change coaches, they're almost looking for a scapegoat. You know, like if they worked with a coach and things didn't go well, you almost get the feeling like they're trying to switch coaches so they can say, see, I'm doing my best. None of these guys can get me in shape, you know. But I mean, I guess there really isn't one way or the other. So I can think of some that were not easy and they just didn't listen and, you know, relied on the genetic guess. And I think of some that were like Luke Sando was probably one of my favorite clients of all time. Cause that guy, he was just, you know, blue collar. He would work himself to death to get in shape, you know? And so guys like that are awesome. But there's been other ones who were like, God, dude, just when you listen 1 week, you know, like you could be the best bodybuilder on planet if you just stayed on the diet for a week. The worst clients, I think, and not, I don't hate to say worst clients, the most difficult clients are the clients who sign on with you because, and this is tough because this is kind of like you build a business this way. The clients who sign on with you because someone else told them to, but they don't know who you are because they don't know whether to value your stuff. Their only input about you as being good at all is that someone they know said you should try working with this guy. And so, and they're, you know, because you want to, like, the best ones are the ones who followed you for a while, listened to all your stuff, and good, bad, or ugly, they're working with you because they've kind of vetted you out and they think you're going to be the best fit for them, you know.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's also like a big part of coaching is just kind of that trust factor, that like relatability. You know, like when I worked with you for the first time in 2018 or so, and you know, of course, you're just from the pure X's and O's of it all, you're a great coach. But I had listened to a lot of your content, a lot of your material, and it just resonated with me. And part of why I trusted you so much was because I felt you were genuine. I respected your intelligence. I liked the way you communicated with me. And that like made me have so much more faith in the process. Like I wanted to go hard for you. Like I wanted to make sure I was executing. It increased my accountability to you, to your point, versus if it's someone who I've never heard of, but you know, maybe they're a fantastic coach, but there's not that same trust and connection. It's going to be much easier for me to start questioning things and doubting things. And, you know,
Well, as a coach, you're one, and I'm sure you've seen this. You're a coach's favorite type of client, an athlete, a former athlete, especially a long-term and high-level athlete. So like, because there's things that you don't know when someone signs on with you. There's, first of all, are they working with you because they want to work with you and they trust your knowledge and they're excited to work with you? That's a big one. But two, do they understand the work involved? You know, and like, and a high level athlete understands that. And so that's, as a coach, that's always so nice. It's like you're not like every check-in, you're like you try and explain like, okay, no, life's gonna suck. We're going low carbs. These are how you're gonna feel. Like someone who's spent their whole life competing and working hard, they might not know specifically what low carb, low energy feels like, but they know what being out of, they know what low energy and being tired feels like. They know what being hungry feels like. They know what being sore feels like. So that's another good thing with a client.
yeah, you know, one of my favorite quotes is choose your suffering, the suffering of discipline or the suffering of regret. And like to me, you know, when I'm dieting, sure, it's hard. I'm hungry. Like I've got cravings, energy is low, but that discomfort pales in comparison to how I would feel just knowing I went off the plan and I sabotaged some of the hard work I've been putting in. To me, that would be way worse. So like
Well,
purpose.
I think that's a really good, I think that's like one of the best, just generalized views anyone could have really on anything. And I've tried to summarize this like into like one little statement forever because it's something I really deeply believe. But the the best future life for you almost always comes from doing a difficult thing you don't want to do right now. Absolutely. Like you can start like when you're in high school, what do you want to do? You want to go out and party with buddies on Friday night, you know, you don't want to work harder or study. But you know, when you keep extrapolating that, if you're always doing the fun thing you want to do now, you'll always be doing the fun thing you want to do. But you know, like the limit of what that fun is or enjoyable or contentment is stays the same. Basically, short-term partying, doing something for a dopamine push, you know. But if you do the opposite and you work hard and grind, when you're in your 40s, you might still not be doing the fun thing at any given moment, but the hard things you're doing now, the work, the things like that, you're doing in a beautiful home with a beautiful family, you know, with people around you you love. If money is your thing, you're doing it with, you know, money in the bank. And so you're always doing the hard thing, but pretty soon the hard thing ends up being better than the fun thing is, you know. It's so it's a I always try to like find a way to word it to my kids because it's kind of obvious when you look at it, but it's not immediately obvious in any given moment. But because you're never doing the fun thing, but it gets to the point where the not fun thing eventually becomes better than the fun thing because you know your life will keep improving.
Yeah, no doubt. And then I think like in today's day and age of the social media, and then like everyone trying to boil training down into like pristine little biomechanics and out to like the hard work, the grind, it feels like has kind of been lost
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And I mean, we've touched on it multiple times now, like that you cannot escape the hard work and the correlation that's going to have to success, especially in a sport like bodybuilding, which something I love about bodybuilding. But you know, with football, it's like, look, you've got you got if you want to play a line, you're either 6'6", 300 pounds, or you're not. Like if you want to be a receiver, like you're not going to work your way to run in a 4.34.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah, you're either Calvin Johnson at birth or you're not.
yeah. And with bodybuilding, like a lot of people genetically, they're not going to be on the Olympia stage, but you can truly just lock into a bodybuilding lifestyle for years and develop a damn good physique, no matter who you are. Anyone can get really lean. Anyone can add a significant amount of tissue compared to their baseline, right? So like if you just I love bodybuilding because you can put the work in and get an incredible result still.
Yeah, and if you're someone who gets that that I don't even know if it's dopamine. Some people just, I think, get a bigger rush from accomplishment than others. There's no better drug than bodybuilding, you know, because every meal, every workout, every day, it's like a never ending sea of work hard, see the success from it, work hard, see the success from it, you know, that's what always drew me into it. Cause it's like every day is important. Every day I'm working towards something and every day I get to get the joy or whatever of knowing that I work towards something.
Yeah, like, you know, like with powerlifting, you know, you might only get 4 workouts a week and you can't always control how they're going to go. But with like bodybuilding, it's like I've got 6 meals every day. And each one of those meal, I'm checking off a win. Yeah. I'm checking off a win.
That's the
My hydration, I'm checking off a win, you know.
because people would ask me because when I competed in both, you know, like they'd ask what competition you like better, and it was no question to me. I like powerlifting competition better. So people are like, well, why you keep doing bodybuilding? And it's like, because I only compete like once or twice a year. On that day, powerlifting's better, but every other day, I get like this massive. Like I said, some people I think get more of it, that sense of accomplishment. I get it all day, every day, you know, and it's really like I didn't realize how great that was until I went back to grad school and stopped bodybuilding. You know, it's kind of like if you've ever dieted really hard, you can't wait for the diet to be over. You're thinking about all the food you're going to eat and all, you know, and you start maybe stockpiling food for when the diet's over. And you're so excited. It's like the diet's over. It's like, yeah, let's go eat. You go pig out with your family. You go home, you eat till you're sick, get up in the morning, eat a bunch of candy till you're sick. And then you realize like, well, what's the point of the day now? No, like,
Yeah.
okay, I got the food out of my system. Like, no, it's just I got to go to work. I'm not, what goal am I working for? It's like you get like this post diet depression phase, you know? And so it's kind of like that. Like with bodybuilding, every day you're waking up and there's a reason to wake up because you have several things you need to accomplish: the meals, the training, the cardio.
Yeah, and like being on a structured meal plan myself for years now, it provides such this like backbone of structure to my life and my day. If there's a time where like I don't have like set meals, I'm kind of like wandering around like what do I do? Like what's wrong? Like you just kind of like lose your direction a little bit. But like I've spent the last several years, like everything I do is like kind of built around the meal schedule and no.
It makes you so efficient, so productive. It's incredible. You do so much more, but get so much more extra stuff done, and like that's another thing. Like, yeah, no one wants to cook the meals. I hate prepping the meals. Half the time you don't even want to eat them. And you think like, oh, I'm going to skip this meal. Screw it. This is awesome. But that's what we were talking about before. It's like you do all these things you don't necessarily want to do, but every time you do it, you get a bigger sense of fulfillment and accomplishment from doing it than the joy you get from just skipping it or being like, screw it, let's get pizza. Because what happens after you eat the pizza, then you're like, oh fuck, ruined like a week of dieting. What? It wasn't even that good. What? God, well, I should have just ate my meal. I didn't even, pizza's gone. Now I'm all pissed. Now I got to diet that fat off again. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, you really realize just how like fleeting and finite the pleasure from a good meal is. Cause then when it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
And it goes by so quickly. And then you just feel like shit. And then you just hate yourself. And then you're just pissed off for the next week because you feel like you just.
How many days that we're going to take to make up for this? Yeah.
Well, just getting back into a little bit more of the, kind of the physiology, the X's and O's of bodybuilding. One of the seemingly bigger genetic components that maybe differs from individual to individual is metabolism. And I know in your career, you've dealt with some extremes, I'm sure on both ends, like crazy high metabolisms, and then maybe metabolisms on bigger guys that are surprisingly sluggish. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to show you one right now. I don't want to say her name. She probably wouldn't care. She's awesome. She's been a client for several years now. And I got a lot of clients. Holy shit. So this is the diet I just sent out. It's a 122-pound female. She's eating 40 grams of protein per meal on medium day with 400 grams of carbs, 650 grams of carbs on high day. She gets 2 of those a week. It's 300 grams of carbs on low day. It's 100. This is
20-pound female.
122, and this is the 13th revision of this metabolism push. And this is probably our 4th or 5th metabolism push, but you can see the progress and so I guess where I'm going with this is that's what my favorite part of the coaching is. It's because her first diets were not like that. This is 6 years of building her metabolism. But yeah, that's the extreme difference is like, and then the next, and then I'll work back to Luke Sando. Luke Sando probably didn't get to eat that much. And he was a 260-pound on-stage pro bodybuilder. So it is pretty wild. And you see, the difference. Some guys, John Rivas, he's got a great metabolism. John's like, yeah, we put him into diet mode and like he sends pics almost like I could send pics every day and he would look different,
Right. I'm sure, working with someone who's got a super high metabolism, it makes the diet easier because they can diet down on more food. Does it make growing harder?
Yeah.
Because you have to feed them so much, right?
Yeah. And even more because it's not just like linear. Typically, I would say like building muscle and building a more muscular body is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. It's like a 2-step process. If we work together and you want to get bigger, my job is to find ways to get more food in you, provided that we aren't adding body fat. Right. There'll be periods where we can increase week after week, and there might be periods where we go 8 weeks without a diet change, But as soon as it looks like your metabolism has increased enough to add some calories, we do that. And as soon as it does it again, we do it again. It's hard to be diligent with it. And then your job as the client is to go train really hard and make progress by whatever form trackable metric you prefer. And if we do both those things and let time pass, progress just happens. And so it's simple, except for guys with crazy high metabolisms, because you can really quickly get into a runaway metabolism where their body adapts too quickly that way. And if you're not paying attention, the next thing you know, you got this guy on like 1,100 grams on carbs on high day, 3 days a week, 750 grams on medium day. can't eat any more food, and he lost weight this week. I was like, oh, yeah, what do we do now? We add food again because we get maybe 2 weeks before his metabolism's like, oh, more food, sweet. Let's crank it up even higher. And they get less efficient at processing the food. When the meals get larger, there's more likely that some percentage of the calories are going to pass into the colon undigested, and it just starts snowballing. It's the guys with really high. One client, Dean Ford, actually is like that, where the hardest thing with him is finding a way to get enough food in him to grow with his crazy metabolism, but not so much food too quickly that the diet quickly gets to where it's unsustainable.
Right. Yeah. And, working with a lot of people myself with nutrition now over the years, like I've found myself in two difficult positions, which is what we just talked about, which is you get to a point where you're feeding a guy so much food, their metabolism's insane. They're not gaining weight anymore. They're just burning right through it. It's like, geez, I can't feed this guy anymore. Like he can appetite, digestion cannot handle it. And then there's the person who their food is rock bottom and they're not losing weight. Let's start with the high metabolism. How do you kind of reel that in? Like, how do you kind of correct at that point?
And I don't even really like talking about this because the only people this ever seems to resonate with are the people who don't have a high metabolism. Well, you have to do things to slow the metabolism down. You have to slow the digestion down. So you have to usually put in foods you normally wouldn't put in. Like a very high calorie, higher fat meal at a time when you would think the opposite, like a post-workout meal, or trickling in sugary carbs, like having them starting to drink Gatorade throughout the day and see if we can get, 300 grams of sugar just from Gatorade, and I hate even saying that because you're talking like you work with 1,000 clients, you might have 5 like that,
Right.
and so if you're wondering as someone listening, it's not you, that you're just going to get fat doing that. But I hate saying it because guys that like younger guys that want to get big, they hear that and be like, well, that's the way to get big. Wendy's and Gatorade, it's like, no, that's the way to get fat for you. But yeah, that's kind of what you have to do. You just have to find a way to slow things down without reducing calories. And typically the way to do that is add like a higher fat, and you don't have to, it doesn't have to be junk. You can just have them take in olive oil, but if you're going to eat the higher fat stuff, it might as well taste good, I think. So that's what I have them do, eat higher fat protein sources.
And by the way, if you're if you're the 99% of people who cannot diet that way, like you were just saying, and that sounds appealing to you, I assure you, if you get to that point where you need that, your life is hell.
Be careful what you wish for. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
That's a full-time job. Because I don't have a great metabolism, but there was a stretch where I was able to really build mine. For like 2007, 2008 was the time where I was really eating similar to that level. And my wife still talks about it, how she hated it. She, like it was worse than having babies. Like it's hard to travel with a kid because you got to pack diapers, a diaper bag, toys. She's like that. That's easy. You were like, how many hours are we going to go on? How many meals need to be packed? Because it's like, well, we're going to be gone for 4 hours. That's 2 meals, but what if there's traffic? We better have another meal. Just right. It's like you can't do anything without thinking about food or what are you prepared for it or.
Yeah, I mean, it's in my opinion, it's much harder having to eat when you're not hungry than much harder than being hungry and not eating.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
it's harder to eat the food you're supposed to eat. It's always easy to eat pizza. Eating dry chicken and rice when you're not hungry, because I always feel like when you're not hungry, it's like you don't produce the right amount of saliva or something. When you're hungry and you're dieting and you start eating, that chicken can be the driest chicken ever. It hits your mouth and your body's like, we're digesting this somehow. Slime's pumping out. You eat that dry chicken when you are not hungry. It's like trying to chew with 2 2x4s. You're just like mashing dry chicken together, trying to choke it down. And
yeah, that's why I have at times resorted to my chicken shakes. I started posting this the other day. But what's funny to me is, when I'm deep in a diet, my diet is the most restricted, I'm eating the least. Like I'll have people in my life like, hey, like, are we getting into like eating disorder territory? Are you like your relationship with food? I'm like, when I'm dieting, my relationship food is at its best. I cherish every bite of food I get.
Yeah, I know. I love food. I'm laying my seasonings out. I'm listening to music while I prep.
Yeah, I'm dieting down. I'm like, dry broccoli is a delicacy. Are you kidding me? Like,
have you tried it? Put the big salt flakes on it. Try it. Try that.
Yeah, it's when I get to eat kind of whatever I want is when I hate food. So people don't.
It's funny too, because like people will say that, but they won't ever ask if you have a eating disorder when you're force feeding. It's just
Yeah, no
funny.
doubt, because that's more along the lines of the norm when they see eating the junkier.
Oh, yeah, you're sick of food too. Yeah, I still shove it in too. Yeah, there's 2 pieces of pizza left. It doesn't matter how full I am. I'm getting them down.
You want to be ostracized by normal people and treated like a leper? Produce a Tupperware at a social gathering with lean meat and rice, and everyone freaks the fuck out.
You know what's hilarious? I used to use that strategy in college when I didn't have money for booze. I would go to a party and someone would be like, dude, why aren't you drinking? Be like, oh, I'm not drinking tonight. Nah, no, I got stuff in the morning. I'm like, fuck that, dude. You're drinking with me here. And you get free drinks all night. It's the same thing with food. Like if you ever want free food, get some dry chicken and broccoli and put it in a container and go somewhere. Everyone will come out of the woodworks trying to get you to eat food for free.
It's kind of funny how things like that seem to make people uncomfortable. I think it's bringing out their insecurities. They see you eating clean, or I don't drink, and anytime I'm in a situation where people are drinking, they're like, "Hey man, you want a drink?" I'm like, "No, I don't drink." They're like, "What? Come on, no, come on, man! Like, have a drink."
Like that, yeah. Like a personally offended that you won't. What I'll do is I'll just have a drink that looks like a mixed drink. And then no one says a word. The second they think you're not drinking, it's like it's everyone's job in the party to make sure you drink now.
Yeah, and I'm like, what is that? Like, why do you care what I'm doing? It's like, and what I think it is, I think they see someone not drinking, and then it makes them insecure. They're like, well, no, like,
yeah, because they know it's probably, yeah, it's like a weird thing. They know it's really probably not good for them, and you almost feel guilty, like, well, this guy's not. What's so great in his life that he doesn't need to escape? Like
yeah, exactly. And then it's the same with food. They see you eating healthy, they get uncomfortable. They'd be more comfortable if you were eating a double baconator, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so other end of the metabolic spectrum, you're working with someone who you're dieting them down, their calories are rock bottom, and nothing's budging, right? Where do you go at that point?
You gotta let them know that the cold hard truth is this: you can keep doing that and make almost no progress, and then and you can do that for the next year, and you make very little progress over the next year,
Right.
or we can step back and we can spend the next 9 months trying to build your metabolism, and you're going to hate the way you look. You're not going to be getting leaner, probably going to be gaining some body fat. We're going to do our best to gain as little as possible, but at 9 months from now, you'll have a metabolism where we can get lean, and then 3 months after that, you'll be lean. So it's basically like like you can either look the same in a year, or you can look worse for 9 months and look better in a year. And it seems like an obvious statement right now, like saying that, but it's really not. It's because it's like well, you see it, I think it's all the time, like when a bodybuilder has a health scare and they don't want to downsize.
Yeah.
It's like, I get that. But the truth of the matter is, it's a minor scare. If you take care of it, it's something like blood pressure, whatever. It's like, but you can take care of it. You can look worse for 3 months and then spend the rest of your life being big again. Or you can try to be big these next 3 months and then spend the rest of your life being small by force because you've created a major health issue. It's like, it's obvious when you look at it that way, but we only think of today. Like, it's hard to make yourself look worse today because at some point in the future it's going to benefit. But that's what you have to do. You just have to, like, because people don't like calories in versus calories out, but it's the cold hard truth. It's the law of the land, and a calorie has nothing to do with nutrition. It's not a calories out, calories in nutrition thing. It's when you took thermodynamics and you learned that conservation of energy, energy can't be created or destroyed. The energy in a system, you put X amount of energy in, you get X amount of energy out. Calorie is just a unit of energy. That's all it is. It's like, no one questions that my car doesn't drive if I don't put gas in it. No one questions that my light bulbs don't work if there's no electricity. It's that calorie has nothing to do with nutrition. So you're stuck with that. And so if you're eating this number of calories and it's way down here and you're not losing weight, the only way to lose weight is to go lower in calories. And if you're already really low, there's a hard floor on that. There's only so little you can eat. And if you're not making progress now, you can spin your wheels forever. That's just the cold hard truth. We're going to have to step back, find a way to build your metabolism. You're not going to like the way you look for months, but then if you do it properly, that can be the last time you ever really have to worry about it.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling that people still argue the calories in, calories out thing, and people will like talk about it as if it's sort of up for debate. Like, oh, I don't really believe in that philosophy. It's like you're a flat earther.
It's way worse than that, because there's nothing. If you prove the earth is flat, nothing happens. If you can prove that energy isn't conserved, you're immediately the wealthiest human that's ever lived, because you create free energy. We're not relying on big oil, big gas. We're not relying on soul. We just want energy, and we create it. Because it's not a diet thing. It's an energy thing, and it's a fundamental law of the universe, is that there's some amount of energy in the universe, and it just passes from one state to the other. You don't create it. If we could create it, then we don't need to dig for energy. We don't need we just create it. And that would be, I mean, not only are you the world's first trillionaire, but you win the Nobel Prize, and and you invent time travel, because really the limit for traveling at really high speeds is that the energy required becomes infinite. Well, if you can create energy from nothing, then that's no longer a thing. So even better, like you're the world's first time traveling trillionaire Nobel Prize winner. The second that calories in versus calories out is no longer true.
Yeah. Well, speaking of just, putting out bad information and doing stupid things, we talked a little bit about this off the air, and, no need to name names, although you certainly can. What are some of the bodybuilding coaches out there doing wrong? Like, what are some of the things you see going on with coaches or pros or whatever that you just shake your head at? Because I'm sure there's quite a bit of that.
I'm going to forget what we talked about off air, so I might, if I might repeat some things. I don't remember what was on air, what was off, but yeah, it's like, do you know? A big thing with me is, do you know why you're saying what you're saying, or are you saying it because you read it or heard it? And that's really the key for a bad coach is, and you see things all the times that get repeated, and once you start noticing it, you'll realize, one, that crap, I've done this and I might do this fairly often. And two, how often it happens. I remember one point years ago saying something on a podcast and then realizing, like, I don't know 100% that's true. I think I'm just saying it because I heard someone else say it. What if they were wrong? And it really stuck with me. And so ever since then, I try and, if I say something and I can't say, well, I know that's true and here's why it's true, then I don't like saying it. And so I go and find out whether it's true or not. But that's the big thing. A lot of coaches, they have this like stack of things that they've read or heard other people say. They don't really understand why they're saying it, but they trust that it was true by whoever else said it. And in general, when you repeat it, it remains true. And for the bulk of things, that works. But where it stops working is when things get nuanced. And that's when it's really important to know things. And so that's really, the couple of things that happen with coaching over the years is, one, everyone's a coach now, which is fine. I'm fine with it. It's a big world. There's none of our restriction on income from coaching is there because of too many coaches at all. None of us are limited by that. There's room for 10 times as many coaches as there are now, because the way it works, like with standard deviations, is that most of the people are going to be in the shitty coach section where they just don't build a clientele. And so even if there's 10 times as many coaches now, that just means there's basically like 100 times as many people that are, the number of good coaches that are your true competitor doesn't increase, isn't 10 times higher, But, and then the thing is, like, so many people just, it's like they just steal information, which is fine because we all to some extent learned it from somewhere. But I've seen, I can think of two times, I'm trying to think if there's more, but at least two, and two is plenty, where a client signs on with me and they show me what their previous coach had them doing. And not only is it like my stuff, it's my shredded ebook.
Yeah.
I mean, like, exactly. And, it's like they bought my ebook and they work with a client, and all they're doing is they're taking your clients, they're doing the client's body fat and height, weight that the client could do themselves. And it's outputting the diet. I mean, like, the formatting wasn't even changed. It's like wild. I think one of them got moved to Google Docs instead of Excel, but all the formatting was still identical. And so that's a big one. Like, people just, and that can work if you steal stuff from a good coach, but it'll only work for clients that are basically within a standard deviation of whatever that original diet was written for, which covered 5% of people, but then 15% are going to get screwed by that coach.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a tremendous amount of just blatant plagiarism going on out there. I mean, especially in this world of remote coaching where, you're sending over the plans in an email form and these documents just get circulated around. And I'm sure there's coaches out there who are just collecting, oh, what did your previous coach have you do? What did Justin Hicks have you do? And then they just take that and just repackage it and then just send it out to all their clients. Is bullshit.
Yeah. And there's other things to it because it's harder to, when I first started coaching, there was no template for coaching. There weren't any. There was like Milos, Chad, Chris Aceto, Skip Hill, Ken Hill, there was like no one, it wasn't even a thing, like we even call it coaches. Like I called myself a nutritionist for a long time. Where am I going with that? Until I forgot what I was going to say. So like for my off-season clients, I would just have them check in twice a month. Like when you're dating, your body hasn't changed. Like the worst thing they can do is have you check in too often and start adjusting for things that aren't real.
Yeah.
As a guy like your size, you can step on the scale today at 320, step on the scale tomorrow at 328, step on the scale tomorrow at 316. Right. It's the same you're just a big guy and the water levels vary. So like if we're making adjustments on things like that, we're but now every client checks in weekly. Why? Because now you got coaches who are like, well, they'll try to steal your clients by saying like they do twice a week check-ins, as a client, it sounds like you're getting more care, but you're not. You're getting more chances to make bad changes. Cause even weekly is almost most of the year, you're not going to change enough in a week to warrant a diet change. And why? Because the precision you can even track your diet isn't that high. The food label is only required to be accurate to 20%. People get this wrong all the time. Like they'll tell me they're eating like, 47.3 grams of fat per day. And I'm like, no, you're not. You have no idea. Yeah, I know your chicken breast package says it's 2.5 grams of fat per serving, but that was a chicken. That was an animal, a living thing. Do you think every single chicken that's ever existed has the exact same body composition to the
Right.
tenth of a gram?
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, people get so enthralled by those little minutia things.
Yeah,
I mean,
you want to track it and be accurate, but you want to track within your ability. And if you have a food and it lists these food ingredients, the true value of each macronutrient, everything is basically a bell curve with like a 20% range around the number they're giving you. And so if you track for basically that number, for every time you get someone that's higher, you're going to get one that's lower. And so as long as you're consistent with your food choices, it evens out. But if you're not consistent with your food choices and you think you're going to track things to the 10th of a gram of fat over a 24-hour period, you can track it. And I've used this, I hate using the same analogy 1,000 times, but I remember every once in a while, and because I was a test engineer, and so we would build the cells that would test equipment, and we have to kind of design them. And so like an engineer would give me some specs on something where, they'd want something to be machined and they'd give you like to 17 decimal places. And it's like, I'm going to machine this to the fraction of the size of an atom. That's, just because Excel gave you that many digits when they did the calculation doesn't mean that we can do that.
Right. Well, I've got one more question for you, kind of in the true bodybuilding realm. Then I want to get into your business.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there are coaches and people out there who, to my eye, it seems like there are a lot of coaches and people with big followings who get all this attention because they're speaking very outwardly about drugs. They're making the top 5 tier list drugs and they're talking about all these, complex compounds and cycles. And that seems just to draw in views and engagement, and people want that. I want to go with the guy who's going to give me the complex drug protocol. Whereas a guy like you, like, the things you say are highly effective and true, but they're not sexy. They're not cool. They're not going to get clicks, right? Do you think there's a lot of people kind of just leveraging?
Oh, for sure. And it's smart from a marketing standpoint. It's smart. What percentage of potential clients are advanced competitors who've tried every PED, know what each does, like a very, very small percentage. Most people get into the sport when they're younger, probably like the 18 to 26 range. and and only stay in the sport long enough to not even have tried every compound. So they never get out of that stage where there's this PED mystery world where it seems interesting and scientific and exotic and they don't understand it. And so if you can market to them, but yeah, I mean, like the, the truth is there's nothing exotic about it. The stuff works, but everyone's doing it, everyone's already doing it. So there is no, that's just the way, but it's an easy thing to market because most of your clients are in and out of the sport in half a decade. I've been coaching for 25 years almost. So I've got like I've got like 5 generations of those people, that have covered out, you know what I mean? So you can market to them and stuff. And I've talked about this a lot of times because the truth is that stuff matters, but it doesn't because everyone's doing it. And it's not, there aren't thousands of compounds. There's there's like 10 compounds that people use. There's 5 that people use 85% of the time, everything. That's it. There's like 5 cycles really. And just differing amounts. That's it. And so, but people starting out don't know that. And by the time they are been in the sport long enough to do all those cycles and understand that, they typically get out of the sport. So you never have to, you can sell like a web of dreams to a never ending supply of clients because the life cycle of that person is so short.
Yeah. Well, it just irritates me when we talk about hard work and the important basics of bodybuilding. It's like people will pass on this, but talk about some obscure compound or some new complex timing during the day with growth hormone, and suddenly all eyes are on you. And it's like in sports performance, like in football, we see these, off-season private trainers that putting on the content, doing the Bosu balls and the flashy footwork bullshit, all the guru stuff with training. And the real strength coaches were rolling our eyes. We're like, this stuff doesn't work. It just looks great on Instagram. But unfortunately, that's what's sexy. That's what's cool. That's what everyone wants to go to that. They want to do the unique, flashy thing. And then
I have really strong beliefs in this because there's a lot to cover because it's pretty nuanced. One is that the hard thing to understand is like training is for performance, not how you look. How you look is like all nutrition. And so why does everyone get into the sport? They start out, they train really hard. We're all young and like this is the first thing we're doing to change the way we look. And we're super motivated and excited about it. So we train our ass off and then we go home and eat like shit. So we don't improve. We get stronger. We get better at performing. We become better athletes, but we don't look like bodybuilders, And so the first thing that you can do that kind of lets you bypass that is you do a cycle. And even if you eat like shit, you still grow pretty well, And so it's really easy to go right from there to boom, this is the key. These PEDs, and you can spend a long time before you realize that that's not true because whatever your first cycle is and you make improvements, but you still don't look like a pro bodybuilder, it's really easy to start thinking like, well, this wasn't the best cycle. This is what I started at. But I made this progress. So I just got to find the right one. And so let me try this compound. Let me try this compound. Next cycle, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try higher doses. And you never look like a bodybuilder, but there's always a new compound or a new dose to try. And by the time you've cycled through all those and it's 5 years later, that's the life cycle of someone in the sport. Usually most people don't stay in it forever. And so then they fade away. So as a coach, you never need to have your client get past that. But the cold hard truth of the matter is, well, statistically, everyone's on PEDs. The Cleveland Clinic says they did a study and found 3 million Americans use PEDs every year. There's only 55 million adult men aged like 18 to 54, and they do 95% of the PEDs. So if you count all the like the women who use it and stuff like that, you get 60 million possible PED users, and 3 of them use it. So 1 in 20 adult, basically 1 in 20 people that on Earth in America use PED. Do 1 in 20 adult men even have gym membership? So everyone at the gym that's there every single day is most likely trying something. And so you start out training really hard, then you're trying PEDs. But the truth of the matter is, none of you are eating good enough that training matters. That's whole guard truth. To actually benefit from that level of training, your diet has to be perfect, you know. And so like I'm kind of a good example of that right now. My training is garbage right now. Garbage. I did arms earlier. I was down there 25 minutes. I mean, I had to do other stuff. It's not because I really want to, but like I can still post videos in a tank top and people still think I'm jacked because I still eat like a bodybuilder, you know?
Yeah.
And so I could train. So me training like just like shit, like I won't even, I'm embarrassed of how bad it is, but me training that way, taking average PEDs and eating really good, I look 90% as good as I did, you know, maybe not that much, 80% as good as I did at my peak, where I could train my ass off like I did when I was 24 and more motivated than anything, tons of energy, take more PEDs than I ever did and eat like shit. And I would look much worse than I do now, training like shit and taking moderate doses.
Yeah.
And all nutrition.
100%. And I mean, now having myself just been in it for years and really focused on the diet side of things. I mean, I'm at a point now where, I mean, my training is pretty good right now, but I'll sooner end a workout early in order to get home and get my meal in, as opposed to missing a meal for the sake of training. Like, it's so true. The diet, when it comes to physique, building tissue, getting lean, the diet is everything. I mean, I've heard you make the good point. I mean, look at going to Gold's Gym and everyone is training the same. Everyone's doing push pull legs or the bro split. Everyone's running cycles, but nobody in there looks like a bodybuilder. The few that actually look like bodybuilders are the ones who are eating like bodybuilders. That is 100% the separating factor.
Yeah. And obviously, if you eat like a bodybuilder and you train like an animal and you take a lot of PEDs, you're going to be even better. But that only becomes a factor if you're eating properly. If you know, that's the key. If you're eating properly, it allows you to benefit from the hard training, allows you to benefit from the higher cycles. But, and, you know, like I've said this, I don't care if people believe it. I don't, you know, I'm just trying to state the truth. Cause I had to learn it the hard way. I had to work my way through that, wondering why I wasn't making progress despite, because my hardest training and most dedicated, motivated training was all before I ate like a bodybuilder and all before PEDs when I was younger. I think back to how no one wanted it more than I did. You know, like that's all I thought about. I remember I went through a phase where I was trying to find different ways to boost adrenaline. And so I would on squat days to see if this would help. I would like hold a paper clip under a flame until it was red hot. And then I'd put it like on my because I think like you get like immediate fight or flight, right? It didn't work. It just hurts. But I would do anything to train harder, or you know, like, and like I was so worried about sleep, getting enough sleep, so worried about my workouts. I would write, and you know, like when people like write a book and they're like, well, you know, I wrote it and then I rewrote it and I just kept doing it until I got it right. I would do that with training programs, like just, you know, like, and I looked like shit. Where now I go down and I just go do whatever, but I eat. I always eat correctly. I was eating. I was eating my chicken and rice right before this. You know, like always. And now I train. My 22-year-old self would be embarrassed to talk with my current self about training, how bad my training is. But I look 10 times better than my 22-year-old self, and the only difference is the diet.
Yeah, I am currently carrying more muscle tissue than I ever have in my life, and currently I am spending less time in the gym than I ever have. Now I'm training hard in the sense that I'm pushing my sets, you know, close to failure, to failure. I'm training, it's, you know, it's a good program, but I'm not going in there and squatting super heavy and ripping huge deadlifts. I'm not training with the same level of hard and stress as I did when I was a strongman competitor or when I was a powerlifter. Like, I'm going in there, staying in a very low arousal state, trying to limit my psychological stress. I'm in the gym for 45 to 60 minutes doing primarily machine, cable, and dumbbell work now, and 100% dialed in on the diet and sleep and trying to optimize just recovery outside of the gym. And what do you know? I'm carrying more muscle tissue than compared to when I was training, you know, harder. back when I was a competitive lifter.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, someone's going to misinterpret this because that's what they always do. I'm not saying there's not value in hard training, and certainly from a performance standpoint, you want to be a better athlete, you want to be a stronger athlete. The training is extremely important. Well, more what I'm saying, and I'm not even saying that's not even better for bodybuilding. What I'm saying is the likelihood that your diet is so on point that you're going to actually get the benefit from that type of training versus a lower intensity training is almost zero. And you can still train that way if you want, and you're going to get performance benefits. If you're an athlete, you're going to get those benefits. But if you're in the gym to look like a bodybuilder or improve your body composition, that's great if you train that way. But unless your diet is dead on point, and no one's is, or they wouldn't mistake whether I'm talking to them or not. The people who know whose diet is on point, I don't have to give this caveat. They know what I'm saying. And the people who might misinterpret what I'm saying, your diet's not on point enough to benefit from that training from a body composition standpoint. It's still like nuance, obviously, for performance. If you want to be an athlete, if you want to be stronger, those things still come into play. And even if you don't care about that, I think it's great. There's value in hard work. I love a hard workout, but don't think you're going to improve your physique from that if your diet's not dead on point. And if your diet, it's almost the likelihood that your diet is so good that you're actually getting a benefit from that training above lesser training is almost zero.
Yeah, and like we have talked a ton here about hard work, but sometimes, particularly with training, I'll tell people it's not about necessarily training harder, it's about training better.
Better.
Like
Yeah.
I'm working with a client.
Yeah, better is better. More can be better, but more isn't always better. Better is always better. Sometimes more is just more.
Yeah, like I'm currently working with someone, I'm doing coaching them just for training, not nutrition. And they came to me like, hey, my triceps aren't growing. Should I just add in another day of tricep work? And I'm like, well, let's look at your program. Like, we already have perfectly enough volume for triceps in here. My advice is let's not add in just some additional junk volume on the tricep push down. Let's get more out of the tricep work we currently have programmed. How much have you actually progressed within the tricep exercises we currently have? Like, are you truly putting enough intensity into that work as it's already programmed? And then also, are you eating enough to support your goal of growing tissue? And then it's kind of like backpedaling. Well, no, I guess I didn't go that hard on my skull crushers, and no, I'm not tracking my food. And
this isn't what I'm doing currently isn't working. So maybe if I do more of what's not working, it'll magically start working.
Exactly. Well, all right. I'm going to shift gears here. I know you're extremely busy. I just want to just let you talk about your business real quick. So, you've kind of shifted focus a little bit. You're running Troponin Supplements, which obviously I'm a supporter. But I truly believe that the supplements you're putting out there are the best supplements on the markets. Just from the ingredients in all of your products to the doses of those ingredients, I think all the products are absolutely fantastic. Was it hard to kind of make that leap to going all in on a company like this in such a saturated market?
Yeah, I said I would never do supplements. Supplements is worse than this. Coaching is the best industry. Profit margins are 100%. I'm clean control over what my fees are, and I am still coaching. I'll always coach. I've done it since I was a kid. I don't know anything I don't know what I would do. It's all I've ever done in my life. So I'll still coach. But and right now people are rolling their eyes about the supplements. And how am I going to word this? Like, people will be like, oh yeah, you're going to sell supplements and then take gear. It's like, well, if you look at what we're doing with the supplements, you'll understand that no, I'm not trying to do that. Like our field rations back there, an intra-workout drink with essential amino acids, high molecular weight carbohydrates, electrolytes. It's an intra-workout product. Who benefits more from intra-workout amino acids than someone on PEDs?
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, and we have, our kidney product, our liver product. Who benefits more from a top of the line GDA, like our Suppressor Max with berberine? And this is what drives me crazy. I hate the supplement industry because it's so easy to put shit out there and sell to an uneducated public. And you're almost dumb if you don't do that because, again, most of the public is uneducated. And even the ones who aren't that educated, and they're in and out of the industry so quickly that if you completely ruin someone's trust, you lost a customer for like 4 years, you know? Yeah, so then there's always new ones coming in. Well, who benefits more from like a, or anyway, so our berberine has sodium caprate, which improves permeability and makes basically our berberine in studies 22.5% better at controlling blood sugar than berberine alone. And on top of that, the bioavailability is so much better that rather than having to take berberine every 2 hours, you can only take ours once a day and still get better results than taking regular berberine every 2 hours. But who benefits more from a GDA that improves insulin sensitivity than someone on GH? You know, it's like if you look at our products, no, I'm not. I'm producing products that I use, you know, and have a use. I'm not selling you like a pro hormone or a pro steroid and trying to pretend it's better than steroids. I'm saying I'm catering to people who are in this sport who fully, and I'm producing products that amplify your effects from that. But I always said I would never do supplements because it's the worst industry. The industry average profit margins like 38%. Wholesalers want 40% discounts. So by industry averages, you're operating at a 2% loss on wholesale. You know, it's like not an industry to make money. And if you look around, what kind of supplement companies are there? You basically have two kinds. You have the kind that finds some big money backing and then get a top pro bodybuilder, usually recently retired, to pretend like it's their supplement line.
Right.
You know, and you write yourself a big fat CEO check until the company goes bankrupt in 5 years. And those pop up every 5 years. Or you find, you know, like, or you have big money from some other branch, you know, like you have like your vitamin shop type companies who sell single serving products that they can produce in massive bulk and undercut the price of everyone else. And those can succeed and last a long time. Or you make a like the Tesla's approach, Elon Musk's approach is, you know, I'm just going to make a better product, and that's all I can do, and I'm going to hope that that's enough, and that's what we're doing. We run lean and efficient, and we, you know, like I'm drinking my ATP right now. I didn't even show it, so I wasn't doing this for the camera because it's not in a troponin bottle. I'm drinking it because it's an incredible focus product, you know, and I have a lot of work to do today. I made field rations originally. I like was Anatrope originally almost 20 years ago, and that wasn't for a supplement. I was trying to make something for myself as a bodybuilder. So, and that's what all my products are. You know, it's all stuff that like basically everything I produce. My thought is, well, if this doesn't sell, I have a lifetime supply of it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and that's this whole theme you just touched on is something I've always respected about you, and I think resonates with a lot of your fans, your followers, your customers, which is you could be putting out the flashier information, doing the drug tier lists or putting out, you know, the flashier marketing with your products, but you've always prioritized putting out quality, legitimate, truthful information, even if it wasn't, you know, the sexier route to take. And I see that same thing with the products that you're selling. It's you clearly prioritize making a better product as opposed to just simply, hey, let's do whatever we can to optimize revenue, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Kind of the way I look at it is like you can be a whore for money, you know, and whores make a lot of money, but they're still whores, you know. Then like, you know, like if I can do well, you know, and have my, I guess, and not be a whore, you know. But I mean, that's the truth. It's like, you know, like, yeah, I'm sure like I could pump, I don't want to say like, I don't want to disparage any companies, but like a C4 that you get at Walmart with, you know, with like, what are they, like 90 milligrams of caffeine now, or I don't even know. But you can put it out at a really low price because there's no cost in the ingredients. And because there's no ingredients, you can make the flavor better, because what kills flavor and stuff that works chemicals don't taste good, you know? So you can make a product that tastes better, you save money on ingredients, and you can sell it for cheaper. And the majority of people buying supplements, especially at Walmart, have no idea what they're buying. And it's a great business model. But like I said, if you whore yourself for money, you can make a lot of it, but you're still a whore. So, you know.
Yeah, that's the quote of the year right there. We're going to put that on your tombstone. Well, yeah, I mean,
I'd pour, but he wasn't a whore.
right. Well, I mean, I was using your products before I ever got involved with your company, and one day I was like, hey, I'm already using the WTF pre-workout. I've been using the field rations now for a while, and the suppressor max for blood sugar. I was like, and then I approached you. I was like, hey, I've been using your supplements for years. We have a relationship. I'd love to get involved and support the company. So, anyway, your products are awesome.
Well, I want to say something on that, and I guess I've thought about how I could use this because I don't want, this is kind of way to bypass it, I guess. Every once in a while, and I'll take photos of some of our shipping labels and I'll never use them, but I always think like, God, I want to post it. So I could show the names of the people that buy our products.
Oh yeah.
And how many sponsored athletes buy our products, how many big name coach, the names of people buying, man, like I always think, like, again, back to the horror thing, like, God, I've thought about so many times, like making like a Instagram story carousel of screenshots of all these names, and because it would like screw like the guys that are sponsoring, it would, I'll never do it, but like, but somewhere personally, it makes me feel really good. Our customer list people would be very surprised, and that's what makes me most proud. If we can succeed and turn a profit, and know that the people who require who and know that people who are getting stuff for free are still choosing to buy ours. Yeah, that's probably my favorite thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure you could get quite a few people in trouble with some of those sponsored athletes who are betraying their own brand. Well, what's kind of the vision for the company? I mean, you're growing, you're building. I'm starting to see the name everywhere. It feels like you're gaining traction, but you're kind of a one-man operation over there.
That's the limit right now is so when we bought my partner out, we went bare bones, and I always thought, like, I've always said, like, I'll work harder than anyone, and so like I thought, well, here, I've always said that, let's see if it's true, and so we cut everyone, our entire staff, every employee, everyone who did everything, graphic designers, videographers, photographers, web developers, Google people, our Amazon people, everyone, everyone. We cut accountant to zero, and it's my wife and I, and so immediately out of the gate, that was great because we took a company that wasn't making money and made it profitable month one, but that profitability was because we did all the work,
Right.
and so we're there now, and I'm something I need to get better about as I grow is I'm just like, I don't say I'm like a perfectionist, but like, I don't even know how to word it, but like, I can't put out fake stuff. I can't.
Yeah.
And so like anytime you have someone else design a graphic, they're gonna, most people don't think that way. So they're going to put out stuff that's not true. And so that's the hardest thing. But no, we're scaling way too quickly. It's very rapidly getting beyond what we're able to do. We're starting to get there, like we got you and John on the team. You guys be at the Arnold with us. We're starting to bring people on. We hired a Google guy. We got John Evans is doing our Amazon, and he's actually in the industry also. He's a power lifter. He's doing our Amazon. I'm still doing all our graphics and web design, but we're really growing. We're filming. We've been filming for like since August with Generation Iron. So this is kind of where I'm at, is that it's right now, everything we're doing is all our money is going to inventory, because we've been filming with Generation Iron and we have no idea what kind of growth we're going to get from that. We have to assume it's going to be non-zero,
Right.
it's like the second you're on Amazon Prime or Netflix, like the people seeing your stuff skyrockets.
No
And
doubt.
so the one way to guarantee that you've killed a business is to have something like that, have the exposure explode, and then not have any product, and even worse, like it's hard to manufacture. Like it can take us 12 weeks sometimes if we're because I'm doing reformulations, we're coming out with new products. Those don't just happen. You got to do flavoring. And so our minimum lead time, you'll always hear, everyone will promise you 6 weeks, they'll promise, like suppliers, because because I'm not in the lab synthesizing chemicals. So we have to source these, and we have to manufacture. So anyways, it's like, it's 8 weeks to do that, And so we have to guess what our sales will be for any level of growth for a minimum of 2 weeks, 2 months in the future. And then we're doing that without any outside money. So I'm got everything on this. This is all my life's work as far as, finances and effort. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't believe in it. But it's been a wild ride, but we're like, we're getting traction hard now, and it's not hard, good. I don't know what the word is, but it's like, it's awesome because every day it's like, oh my God, how are we going to manage this? But you find a way, because like hiring is so hard because I don't know how to hire people, and I don't have I don't got 15 hours a week to spend in interviews. I don't have 15 hours free time period. I don't sleep anymore even, you know? And so like, you got to find people, hire them. And then you're like, we don't have a system, like developing like, MOPS, managers of people. Like, it's just me and my wife, so like, it's been awesome. The response has been unbelievable. The sales are growing very rapidly, consistently. And we have like probably my proudest thing with everything I've done in the sport is loyal customers. I see names that I've seen for years buying ebooks, coaching. Yeah. And so like, if anything, whatever happens, anything, there's people, and they're all buying my products, not because of fancy marketing or not because, we sold a shitty product for cheap. They're buying it because they trust that our products are better. They bought them and they found that they do have value. And I won't produce a product that if I don't use it, I don't make it. And it goes back to that, like, what I said earlier, like, well, if all things fail, the worst case scenario for me is I have a lifetime supply of products I want.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, just touching on one of your products, and then I'll let you go. I know you're incredibly busy. We've talked, you and I, just, I've got, I'm coming from the sports world. I've got a large percentage of my following are in the sports world, and a lot of dietitians working for teams. Your Field Rations product, I've always felt was one of the superior intra-workout products out there, but we've talked about, a variation of it that would be absolutely a superior replacement to the current sports drinks out there, the Gatorades, the Powerades, and those things. Can you touch on that?
Yeah. And that's the thing and this is where the marketing comes in. Cause it's a better sports drink, because even Gatorade isn't what Gatorade was. Gatorade was originally used without high fructose corn syrup. It was done with a lower carb intake. So it was studied in like the late 1960s at the University of Florida. That's a Gatorade, the Florida Gators, and so, but what they found was they needed to find an amount of carbohydrates that they could ingest without spiking insulin, because insulin's a central nervous system depressant, it makes you sleepy. And they wanted to find the right amount of electrolytes to replace what is lost in sweat. And so they came up with this sports drink that was much lower in carbohydrates. It was from dextrose, not high fructose corn syrup, different ratios of electrolytes. So it tasted more salty, and it worked. Well, then they wanted to market it to the masses, and so then it's like back to the C4. What do they have to do? Crank up the sugar content, find a cheaper sugar, and then change the electrolytes so it doesn't taste so salty. And that's the current Gatorade. And so even Gatorade isn't what was studied. So our Field Rations is a high molecular weight carbohydrate. So it's something you can take in higher amounts of carbohydrates without causing distension. So when you drink like a sugar, like the osmolarity of your blood is like 300 mmols per liter, whatever it is. It's around 300, whatever the units are. And if you drink like a high sugar juice, it's around the same, 300. So where's the pull? There isn't. Even worse, it can be higher osmolarity. Like if you drink like a really sugar dense drink, maybe it's 400. And then there's a pull of water into the stomach then, not out of the stomach. And so you get bloated, like you drink too much sugar, go chug orange juice and then go in, like if you're a kid and you're playing flag football, go around the field and drink 16 ounces of orange juice and see how you feel. Your stomach will start bloating. And so we can bypass that because the high molecular weight carbohydrates have a very low osmolarity, which means there's like an osmolarity pull through the stomach into the small intestine. And that's where actually the nutrient transfer occurs. And then instead of sugars, we use these highly branched cyclodextrins, these huge structures where there's like the actual glucose molecules on this big surface area molecule where the body can pluck those glucose off the surface. So it's got a huge surface area, so it can pluck lots of glucose. But because of that big surface area, it takes a long time to pluck all of them. So you get immediate glucose into the blood, but not all at once. You don't get the insulin spike. So you get the fast carbs, it's sustained, it doesn't bloat. And then we add essential amino acids to make sure there's no muscle breakdown. There's nutrients to cause muscle growth. And then we add electrolytes. And so we've done we have a field ration sport version made that would have less amino acids, different ratio of electrolytes, more closely mimicking what you need to replace from the body that's lost in sweat and breathing and yelling, and lower carbohydrates also. And I want to say, when I talk about like one of the photos we took was of a very advanced sports team, which I have to thank you 100% for helping with. I don't know if I can even say the name yet, but I'll just say an NFL team. An NFL team made a good order for field rations. And so it looks like we'll have a variation of it, at least getting tested at the NFL level.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if you're a sports dietitian out there, you're a nutritionist for a team, consider getting in touch with Justin about this. I mean, just as a strength and conditioning coach, we were always just the intra practice drinks that we were giving the guys, the Gatorade, the Gator Lights and all that. It never would cut it. Training camp, no matter what we did, the guys are cramping, the guys are just running out of gas by the end of practice. And we just didn't have an optimal intra-practice drink to replace what they were losing. And
it's outrageous there isn't at that level, because there was, sort of. I mean, like, nutritional science has advanced since the 60s, so the real Gatorade would be more advanced now. But even that isn't what it was originally made. And it's crazy that they can, like you said, the Gatorade Light or the G2, they realize this. And so they brought the carbs down back to kind of more closely mimic. So they're like, even they're admitting like, yeah, what we were making was garbage. We're trying to get it a little bit closer, but they still, I mean, the flavor is hard, and the field rations took us a long time to get the flavor right. But yeah.
Well, like I said, if you're in the sports world, reach out to Justin. He's making some incredible products that I think are they're still flying under the radar. And I'm excited just to watch the growth that you guys are going to have and seeing these start to go more and more mainstream. And I think people are realizing how awesome these products are. I mean, I take the ATP before every podcast I do. I pair that with a little bit of the Zen, and I feel like it's hours.
Oh, I know. Well, that's what I just realized how long we've been talking. It's like we're two different people. So we call it Natty Addy. Like if I need to talk about, my daughters call it locked in. Like if I need to get locked in, ATP, yeah, there's no replacement for it.
Well, Justin, I'm going to let you get back to work here. I know you've got like 18 different jobs within the company. You've got it for yourself, as well as coaching Brandon Curry and John and those guys. So where can people find you?
And go to, I mean, the easiest thing, if you search Justin Harris Nutrition, all my stuff will pop up on the internet, but Troponin Nutrition or Troponin Supplements. And we need to work on a commercial on explaining why we call ourselves Heart Attack Supplements. I'll say it really quickly. I never thought anything would happen to this. Like 25 years ago, I was a kid. I was like 20 years old. I was on the forums back before there was social media. And I used to go by troponin or tropomyosin. And the reason isn't because of heart attacks. The reason is because calcium enters a cell and binds to troponin, which moves troponin off of tropomyosin and allows the myosin and actin cross bridge heads to cause a muscular contraction. And so without troponin or tropomyosin, you can't have a muscular contraction. And I always thought that was cool. And so it just so happened that the most popular message boards, I was known as troponin. Some of the ones I went by tropomyosin on some of them, but they were smaller boards. And so when I started coaching people, everyone just called me troponin. Yeah. And so I was like, I think my wife actually made our first website and just named it Troponin Nutrition, because that's what no one knew Justin Harris. They knew troponin. Never thought anything would come of it. So 25 years later, I'm stuck with Heart Attack Nutrition. But that's the reason behind it.
Yeah. Funny, I actually had an AFib episode a couple years back, and they were putting me through a series of tests, and one of them was testing troponin levels, looking for heart attack. And they're like, I was like, Doc, my troponin levels are gonna be pretty damn high. I've been taking the troponin field reactions into workout, all of his product stuff. No, but anyway, guys, I can't endorse Justin as a coach or his supplements enough. If you're one of my followers or my audience, you can go to my Instagram account, hit the link in my bio. I've got the link for Troponin Supplements. Use code HECK, all caps, HECK at checkout. You'll get a discount. I've been using the products for years. I've known Justin for years now. He's one of the absolute best in the business. By the time this podcast releases in just a few weeks, the Arnold will probably have just finished up. So, best of luck to Brandon and John. I can't wait to see how those guys do.
Big weekend, yeah. It's the biggest weekend for us ever. It has the potential. Nothing ever goes as well as you hope, but the potential for what can happen between Generation Iron, the booth, John, and Brandon is enormous. It could be a huge weekend for us. It'll be stressful.
Yep. And guys, I'll be at the Arnold myself. I will be at the Troponin booth in my Troponin bodybuilding jersey representing. So trying to make everyone look small. So Justin, I'll be excited to meet you out there in Ohio, man.
Sweet.
All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you on the next episode. Justin, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.